All right, I don't know how many of you guys have been following this Jeff Weinhaus case. This goes all the way back to 2012, 2013. In 2012, on 9/11/2012, the cops tried to murder this guy. Jeff was an independent journalist, activist out in Franklin County, Missouri. And the cops had come up with some kind of warrant because they wanted to mess with him, right? Some kind of drug warrant, and they went into his house and used that to take all his computers and stuff that he used to do his journalism. They called him and they set him up, and they called him and said, hey, we're going to give your stuff back. Come out here. And he goes out here and they shoot him. There's this unbelievable footage from this that he had from a watch camera. You guys know these kind of watch cameras and stuff. Whenever you need them, they don't work. But this was a miracle because this thing was on the whole time, and you've never seen footage like this. But what's even more amazing is that after you see this, when you realize that they managed to dupe a jury, that people were ignorant enough to look at this case and actually convict Jeff of violence against police when he did nothing. But I don't need to talk to tell you. I can show you, and I warn you, this footage is not good.
2012, Sergeant H.J. Folsom going back and supposedly they're gonna give me my computers. And I whirled around trying to find someone to go with me. At the MFA station, St. Clair. You know, down the road from me.
So you can see that he's nervous, right? He knows that these guys are up to no good. But it's also pretty clear that his intent is not nefarious. He just wants his stuff back.
So just pray for me, okay?
So he heads out, right?
Go on, man. Good, how are you? You got the gun, cool. Why I got the gun? Why you got the gun for?
Because I'm authorized.
All right, well, I'm authorized to get down on the ground. Get on the ground. Get down. You're going to have to shoot me, man.
So 2 in the head, 2 in the chest, right?
Still got the gun.
The only thing they failed at is they wanted to actually kill him.
Yeah, police, FBI, Howard Patrol.
He's down. Is that a gun in there?
You know, like they're going to be victims when they just tried to murder Jeff.
Lay down, man. He has not been searched. Not self. No, it is not self. It's an officer involved. Officer involved. Don't fight, Jeff.
He got his hand. Sonny wants to grab you. He's not.
So then they get the medics out, right? They don't seem in too much of a hurry, but yeah.
If I get you, got it right there. Just there. We got 2 gunshot holes, guys. Just get rid of the tie.
What was in the head?
Right there in the back of the head.
Is that going to be an exit wound?
Looks like an entrance wound here.
There's your exit wound here. Right.
Let's fly him.
Correct. Got it. Yeah, line.
Jeffrey, can you hear me? Okay. We're gonna get you fixed up here, bud.
He's breathing.
Breathing good.
Yeah. Let us do the work. Okay, you lay still. You got that tape on? You lay still. If you guys got some gauze.
What happened here is he rolls up, gets out of the car. He was legally carrying, right? And he gets out of the car. He does nothing threatening. They immediately start threatening him, and then they immediately open fire. There's no time for anything. This is so outrageous that you can have this video, right? The officers who have no evidence, they're let off scot-free. And the victim who has all the evidence is sent to prison. 4 shots, 2 to the head, 2 to the chest. If you were just following what the mainstream puppets say, you would have seen things like this. Convicted on all these charges. The 2 troopers shot him 4 times, twice in the head and twice in the chest, leaving him with life-threatening injuries. Look at the utter epitome that is called news stories by this. This is the Leader back in 2013. You got a story and it's saying, hey, this guy was shot 4 times. This guy was also convicted on a bunch of charges, right? No actual journalism, no bothering to question, wait a minute, how can you have these juries look at this stuff? A Franklin County jury recommended 30 years for each of the 2 or more serious charges. What were those charges? 1 count of assault on a law enforcement officer and 1 count of armed criminal action. So this is the level of insanity. This is why I've said for years we don't have justice in our court system. When you can watch the video that we just watched and say, oh, the guy that just got shot that the cops tried to murder who didn't actually touch them or do anything to them, there's no evidence that he drew a gun, there was no shots fired. He got out of the car, they opened on him. There's a lot of people in prison that shouldn't be there. The whole prison system and the way it works, the way it doesn't reform, it's a joke. But when you look at cases like Jeff's that are so blatant, but he's still locked in a cage, and these guys, with the help of their news media puppets, they help put him there. If you hear guys that actually break things down, attorneys that actually break things down, journalists, guys like Roger Roots, there's an article, and I'll link this because this actually gives the real story. This was written in 2019. And even though the officer that opened fire on Jeff was previously diagnosed with extreme PSD and tested positive for mind-altering drugs immediately after the shooting, this information was not presented in the court. Jeff wasn't even allowed to make his case. They actually put like a shock collar on him to keep him from having outbursts in the courtroom, because heaven forbid that you should have an outburst, that you should be angry when you're getting railroaded in a kangaroo court. And you can see him get out of the car. You can see that he's not rushing. He's not moving towards them aggressively. He's not aiming a gun. He's not doing anything. And you can just see, watch that green shirt and that gun just pop up and fire off. You can see the shells coming out of the chamber.
Why I got the gun? Why you got the gun for?
Because I'm authorized.
All right, well, I'm authorized to be down on that. Get on the ground. Get down. You're going to have to shoot me now.
Right, look at this.
You're going to have to shoot me now.
There's no waiting. There's no waiting.
You're going to have to shoot.
There's just shooting. There it is, right there. There's just shooting. There's just violence. There's just criminal activity from the people who are supposed to be protecting our streets, but are actually hopped up on medications. They have PTSD. They don't know who to shoot and when to shoot them. Now, this is all business as usual for the good old boys of Franklin County, the prosecutors of the state, who the cops go out, they do the hit, and the good old boys help clean up the mess all the way to the judges, the state attorneys. And there's been now, 2-3 state attorneys, despite calls being made to these guys, despite a push from those of us here on the outside, nothing's been done. Now, you would think that any attorney with assault would immediately be able to take this evidence, the fact that they withheld evidence. If you go back to this story that's detailing the details that have come out later, Folsom had been suffering from mental health issues stemming from at least 2000 when he shot and killed someone else. Even told a psychiatrist that he feared he tends to shoot innocent people reaching for wallets. Innocent people reaching for wallets. Yet Jeff Weinhaus is sent to prison for 30 years. After Folsom and his criminal buddy unsuccessfully tried to murder him. This only came out that he'd been diagnosed with PTSD, that he was on drugs, etc., that he was on medications. In 2019, when in another case, a Missouri court upheld the ruling that Folsom had been fired. The state police waited to fire Folsom until after he testified at the trial, hiding all of this information so that they could convict him. I don't know how the jury could look at this video and still convict him, because it's so blatant who attacked who in the video, unless you're absolutely mental. When these criminals are allowed to walk free, who are literally murdering people on the streets, and they're just allowed to go scot free as the politicians cover for them so they can save face, the judges cover for them so they can save face, the news media covers for them so they can face, even though they know they're not mentally stable, even though they're firing them because of it, the people still stay in prison. Because all the way up to the state prosecutors, what the system doesn't like doing is admitting that it was wrong. And so there's people all the way to death row that these states are executing when there's no credible evidence, or there's even evidence that's credible in favor of their innocence, and they don't care. Until people make a noise for cases like this, until we stop pretending, oh, I'm glad that guy went to prison. How many times have you read an article and how it painted someone. Maybe it painted them as a child abuser. Maybe it painted them as a rapist. Maybe it painted them as this or that. And you're like, oh, that guy deserves to be locked away. That guy should be this or that. And you've seen that lynch mob mentality, and you've probably even done it yourself, right? You've probably even fallen for it. When you recognize that the news media is simply parroting to uphold the corruption, the lies, and the fake police reports, right? In the testimony, Folsom said he tried to pull out his pistol from his right side, even though there's no evidence of that. The police didn't give you their cameras, right? We have a camera from Jeff's side, and it shows who the aggressors were. And actually, Jeff wore his holster for his open carry pistol on his left side, the opposite of what the officer claimed he went for his gun from. They're blatantly hiding evidence in violation of the law. They're blatantly sending people to prison by manipulating juries and making sure they get convictions and sending them away, even though when it's absolutely clear to anyone with an ounce of common sense who the aggressors were in a case like this. It doesn't matter if you liked Jeff or if you thought maybe, oh, it wasn't smart to go meet cops and have a gun in your head, but it wasn't illegal. Jeff was an activist. He was a journalist. He was being an activist and a journalist, and he did nothing wrong. There's been some new developments of, habeas corpus, and one of the public defenders actually picked up his case, which I know public defenders aren't thought of as great, but it's not like the paid lawyers have done much for Jeff. But Jeff's still sitting in prison, guys. This is what can happen to you or to anyone you know at any time. You still have people like Schaefer Cox sitting in prison who hurt no one. You still have so many. You still have the Leonard Peltiers. You still have all of these people from all the different factions, from all the different activist groups, from all the different creeds sitting in prison after trials from kangaroo courts. And you have so many others who've been sitting in prison for years. And I know these people who haven't even been given a trial. And this is how it works in the United States. Look for places. I know Jeff recently mentioned to me this serial podcast that tells stories about things like this. And he wants us to send emails to recommend. In fact, if you can, I'll put the email to this. Send them this video, right? I may be seen as a crazy activist, but they can look into it. The original footage from the watch cam is available. The story is available. The case is available. The stuff that came out of how they illegally suppressed the evidence and yet he still sits in jail is available. There's really no secrets here. Pass this on to someone. Send this video to someone that has that does real journalism, that actually reports stories of what's going on in our courts and our prisons. And let's start getting these people out, because this is crazy. How long do people like Jeff have to sit in a concrete box? I'm sure you know some too. Name their names. Keep their names on our lips. Put them in the comments. But I just wanted to get this one out for you guys and kind of tell you the story, a little bit of Jeff Weinhaus. And let's talk about this more. This is crazy. This is just crazy. All right, you guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.